When it comes down to it, love isn't just a thing that you feel, it's a thing that you do. Love is a verb. And if love is a thing that you do, it means it's a skill you can build. So today on the podcast, we're talking about how you can build the skill of love, specifically how you can build practical skills for communication in your marriage. Let's get into it. Hey, Strength and Seduction family. This is Daniel, and if you're listening to this episode, there's a good chance that you're already a Strength and Seduction customer. The reality is, most people purchased our Strength and Seduction workouts back during the pandemic because they were really fun to do in the house and they looked exciting, and you wanted to build intimacy with your partner. You wanted to build connection with your partner. But over the past few years, we've realized that just doing the workouts is really fun, it's engaging, and it's interesting, but it's not really what we were trying to get at with our programming. What we intended to do is to create something that would help you to transform your life and your marriage. And it's taken us a few years to figure out what exactly that means. And we didn't do it alone. We did it by talking to you. Over the past few years, we've talked to over 20,000 couples, Black couples in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s, who've gone through it all, who've seen the ups and downs of life, who've gone through all the struggles, who've actually achieved happiness. And what we learned was really shocking. We learned that there are 4 key elements that all relationships must have strong. They must have on lock in order to make that relationship thrive. And we took those 4 elements and we designed a program around those elements to help support Black couples in a way we've just never seen done before. And what we came up with was called Love and Legacy. And it's the first and only program in the world created from speaking privately with thousands of couples just like us about the biggest challenges in our life and relationship. And it's actually a proven system designed to help Black couples upgrade our life and our marriage. Now, this is not open to the public yet. If you're listening to this, like I said, you're most likely already a member of our community. And that's why we'd like to tell you about it first. You can apply and you can learn more at strengthofseduction.com/legacy. This is a private page. And I look forward to hearing from you because the reality is there isn't a lot of talk about what makes our marriages work, what makes our marriages thrive. What I've seen when I'm doing my research is that there's still a big stereotype that our marriages don't last, they don't work, that they're non-existent. And that's certainly not the case. In the Love and Legacy community, we have members who've been married for 20, 30, 40 years, and they're still going strong. And yet they're still interested in learning more and digging deeper and showing up better as partners and individuals. So if that's you, go ahead and check us out, strengthofseduction.com/legacy to learn more about this new program that we're launching. And enjoy today's episode. This is the Strength of Seduction podcast, the #1 resource for Black couples who want to build intimacy, love, and connection in their relationship. I'm your host, Daniel DiPiazza. My friends, welcome back to the Strength of Seduction podcast, the #1 resource for Black couples who want to build love, intimacy, and connection in their marriage. I'm your host, Daniel DiPiazza. If you're new here and you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for updates if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform like Apple or Spotify. Make sure to subscribe and leave a review. We have an incredible episode for you today that's all about building practical skills for communication in your marriage, which is the #1 thing that couples struggle with based on our research of over 20,000 beautiful Black families. Now, this ties in very nicely because today you're going to hear from our expert coaches, Renita and Roosevelt Quick, who head up our communication coaching within our program, Love and Legacy, which you might have heard by now. This is like a top secret program that we're only really looking to offer to our best community members. Now, if you want to learn more about Love and Legacy, this is a program designed specifically for Black couples to break through communication barriers, to improve their health, to deepen their intimacy in a real way, and to create more financial abundance. If that sounds like something that you and your partner would be interested in, make sure you go to strengthofseduction.com/apply to learn more about that program and to apply to see if you're a good fit. Now, let's jump into today's episode. This is a snippet from one of our coaching sessions inside of the program. I've just taken a small piece of it with Roosevelt and Renita teaching because these are very deep sessions and we don't actually include on public podcast any of our members who are asking questions and getting support because we want to keep this space sacred, but we would like to share some of the awesome gems that our coaches drop. So enjoy today's episode and I'll catch you on the other side.
I'm really excited about the lesson on tonight, what we're going to be sharing, because if I'm really honest, we're going to talk about just communication, specifically how to practice active listening and active speaking.
Thank you.
And this really, for us, we really have lived this out.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had really an opportunity to test, to practice the things we're going to be sharing on tonight. I would say that the idea behind this is to create a few practical skills, learn a few practical skills on communication, things that would help to develop, things that will help you to develop more, just some specific behaviors, things that you can practice, you can put in motion to help with communication, some practical skills. So the first thing that we want to do, you want to go?
Yeah. So we're going to do an exercise on tonight that is going to hopefully help to foster some connection. And it's a little involved. So you're going to want to, you can go ahead and put that first slide up. You're going to want to do a couple of things to get yourself in the right position. And what we're trying to do as we go into tonight's lesson is what we call creating a safe place. So what you want to do right now is find a comfortable place for the two of you. And you want to sit face to face, knee to knee. If you're sitting on the bed and you can sit Indian style, it's difficult for me to do that at this age, but you can turn and face each other. Or the easiest way is going to be to get in your chair like we're doing and just turn and face each other, because you want to be able to look at each other. You're going to have some exchanging going on. So if you can turn face to face, knee to knee, you need to be looking in one another's eyes. And let me just explain what's going to happen. And then we're going to leave this up. Everybody's going to go on silent. And we're going to give you about 7-8 minutes to do this in private. But what we're wanting to do is just get into a place where we can relax. So you're sitting eye to eye, knee to knee. You want to close your eyes and just do some deep breathing, if you will. Anybody that was on, Daniel had a session on Easter Sunday where he did something very similar to this. And wherever you see 555, what you're doing is taking in, breathing in on a 5 count, holding it for 5 seconds, releasing for 5 seconds. It's just real simple. And you're going to do that 4 times. That's going to be a total of about 60 seconds. So to get yourself, after I give you the instructions, to get yourself just in a relaxed state. And then what you're going to do is you're going to share at least 3 things, and just organically, what are 3 things that you're thankful for your spouse, for your partner? And you're going to just share those 3 things. And then once you hear them, once you say them, you're going to do the breathing again. A lot of times we say things, and especially if we're not really connecting, it just goes over my head. I heard you, but I wasn't really listening. I heard what you said, some words came in my ear, but I didn't really take it in. So what you're doing every time you're exchanging this piece of information is you're just breathing so that you can just settle into what you just heard. I just heard my husband say this. I just heard my wife say this. So you're going to 555 for that 60 seconds. The next exchange, and you can alternate. So Roosevelt will say what he's thankful for. I'll say what I'm thankful for, and then we're both going to breathe. Then we're going to go to the next issue, the next question. Ask anything that you need to ask forgiveness for. You're not asking them. You're taking a minute to think, you know what, this week I was short with you. This week I ignored you. This week, whatever. And so I want to ask you to forgive me for this. They're going to do the same thing. You're going to take those 5 breaths. Then the last things are 3 words of encouragement. What positive can you say to your spouse or your partner that are encouraging words? You're going to share, they're going to share, then you're going to take your deep breaths, 5. Okay, so we're going to go on mute, and we're going to give everybody we'll go through the exercise, so we'll know just about when everybody is finished. If you're off camera, we're believing that you're doing the exercise, and if you're driving, then certainly you cannot. But if you don't want to be on camera while you're doing it, you don't have to. But what we don't want you to do is be sitting there watching everybody else, and you're not doing the exercise. So that's our coaching recommendation to you.
All right.
Very good.
Excellent, everyone.
So that's an exercise you guys can work on, try throughout the week if you just need that time to connect, because it gives you some prompts to talk about. And it's not, yeah, we didn't do that. Yeah, we should have kissed. I like that. Gives you some prompts to get that connection going. So if you didn't get a chance to do it, like Keith and Michelle, or you came in a little bit late, we're going to put it up in the room, and so you'll have it and you'll be able to use it. Okay. So we're going to take some deep dives into communication on tonight and talk about some real practical things, but we're going to just talk about we're going to start with talking about filters, understanding communication filters, and how they can be deterrents sometimes to us creating those safe places for communication. And then sometimes those filters can work to our advantage and they can be positive. So let's just take a deep dive into that and see what we can learn on tonight.
First of all, is understanding communication filters. Communication filters is anything, when you're communicating, anything that deletes or distorts the message that you're sharing. And that's the first thing to understand about communication filters. And it is important to understand that they can influence how you perceive or interpret a message. I was sharing with Renita the other day, as we were just even preparing for tonight, there were things that were distorting our ability to communicate, our ability to connect, because the message was being distorted. And so I interpreted certain things some ways. She interpreted my actions in certain ways. So again, filters have a way of deleting, changing, distorting the message. And whereas we think we're being clear, mm-hmm, we could actually be communicating and missing one another because our communication is being filtered. So that's just important to understand. It affects both the speaker and the listener and can either enhance or distort the meaning of a message. And we're gonna talk about what that is. And it can be either internal or external. So if, for example, if we're on the phone, if you're trying to be on the phone and you're trying to talk with the windows open and you're talking with somebody on the phone, you're going to have a hard time hearing because you got wind noise, you got the noise of the distortion on the microphone. So there are all kinds of barriers within the communication. The important thing is being aware of the presence of those filters. So that's what's really important.
So let's talk about them specifically and see how we can identify what they are. And here's the key. The reason why we're bringing up filters is because we know they have the ability to distort or change the message. So the key is, how do I eliminate or minimize any kinds of filters that are present? And as we go through these, you'll probably be able to identify how some of them have shown up. When we asked the question earlier about how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how have you connected? If you rank anything lower than 10, which all of us did, even if it were an 8, I want you to think about, as we're going through the filters, what may have caused that number to not be excellent. So let's start with distractions. External noises or interruptions. Roosevelt gave a great example of distractions, but it also can be our kids. It can be our electronic devices. It could be work, that different things that have happened. If I'm trying to finish work and all of the different emails or the pinging and all the different notifications that I'm getting that just keep me from being focused. And those things can be distractions. Whether they're noises, whether they're interruptions, they are things that there are filters that prevent me from getting the total message of what was being said. Emotional states. How do I feel? I often talk about, people, you probably heard the word hangry. And that's about, I'm hungry, I need something to eat, my blood pressure, my sugar is low, And because of that, I just can't even connect with you. I can't even focus. I'm tired. The other day, we were working on something and I was so sleepy that even the things that I normally would be able to do just like that, I could not get it together. And at one point, we were sitting on the couch and we were working on some things and I was like, I'm done. And I and I went in my clothes, laid on top of the bed, put the cover on, turned out the light, and I was out for like hours because emotionally I was just spent and I didn't have anything else to really give to the conversation and to give to what we were trying to work on. So emotional states have effect. That's a filter. Beliefs and expectations. What am I thinking? How am I perceiving something based upon my own internal opinions or assumptions about something? My worldview, does that now skew the message that I'm hearing and what I'm thinking about what you're saying? Now, the thing about beliefs and expectations and even emotional states is they can be positive as well. I could be a person that always sees the world as the glass is half full. It's just not empty to me because I'm just a positive person. And so I can put a positive spin on anything. My mother-in-law is like that. She will put a positive spin on the fact that somebody went to jail. They went and they were just taking a break. They needed a break just to be somewhere where they can get 3 square meals and just could rest without being for the world. And this mom, they're in jail. Emotionally, that's what she brings to the conversation. And so in a positive way, it skews the message. That's how some people with their belief system or their expectations, that's a filter. We talked last week about different communication styles. And if I'm an introverted person versus an extroverted person, that could have an effect on how I receive information. I don't want to engage in drama. And so my style is one where even if you bring a difficult conversation, I don't want to talk about it. That's not my style. I'm just saying as an example. But if you brought a difficult situation, because I'm an introvert, I don't want to engage in conversation with you about that. So styles can be a filter and they can have an effect. Then the last area as a filter we want to be aware of is self-protection. And this one's interesting because, again, if I feel like the conversation is a threat to me, it's a threat to my self-esteem, to my identity, I may want to not engage again. Maybe there's something that you're saying that helps, that brings back a traumatic experience or traumatic thought that I had. Again, what I'm saying is I need to protect myself, excuse me, from that issue. And so I'm not going to engage, or I'm going to minimize my participation in the conversation. And that shows up in the form of a filter because now I'm feeling threatened. I'm threatened by your tone. I'm threatened by the words that you're using, the selection of the words. So I cannot even receive the message because you're bringing back something that affected me in a negative way. And I don't want to participate in that again.
So I think, again, the key to all of this is being aware. I think awareness is so key that if you're not aware that, for example, if I'm using self-protection, and I have to admit, that's something that I tend to do. I tend to hold back. What that tends to do is that keeps me from opening up and being transparent with you. So I was sharing with Renita, one of the issues that we were going through preparing for today is I was allowing thoughts about what I had to face on today. I had some things I had to get done, some reports to get done at work. And so yesterday I was allowing my thoughts about today to affect me and cause me, my beliefs and my expectations about today, they were actually affecting the way I was treating her. I was short, I was impatient because of something that was happening. It had nothing to do with her necessarily. But again, I was not aware of it, conscious aware of it enough to let her know, hey, this is what's going on. And so it actually interrupted our conversation. So again, that's why it's just important to be aware of those filters.
And the interesting thing about what happened was I could tell, and most of you can tell when your spouse or your partner is in a place where it's like, this is not going down the right road. And I knew that there were a couple of things that we still needed to finalize about this for tonight. But I could also tell that Roosevelt was at the end of his rope. And I said to him, you know what? You just need to go to bed. And I'm going to I'll finish this and we'll come back together on tomorrow. Just go on and get in the bed, because I know him well enough to know that when he's gotten to that level, whatever the filter is, whatever the issue is, that he needs to be able to get that stress off, and the disengagement
Right.
is the most important thing at that point.
It's actually at that point counterproductive to achieving anything if we're trying to push through it.
Yeah.
So let's just think about this, and this is what we want you to ponder. Think back to the last time that you experienced miscommunication in your relationship. Did any of these communication filters interfere with your communication? Was it distractions, your emotional state, your beliefs and expectations, your differences in style, self-protection? Did any of those, did you have any experience? And we're going to just share, let's just share a little bit about that, have a little bit of conversation. Did you experience any of those things having an impact on the way that you communicated with one another? Anybody want to share maybe some of your experience?
We were just sharing about how the emotional state negatively was affecting our communication on yesterday. Anybody else? It's okay. So how do we communicate through that? How do we share that kind of burden and get the support from our spouse and from our partner when that's the place that I find myself right now? Our communication style is different. How do we come to the middle ground in that? Who gives, who takes, the yin and the yang of that? How do we make that work? So it's starting with, let's identify, become aware, and then we're going to start applying some different things. Okay.
And the other thing I would just add to that is I like what coaches do with their teams when they're going down a path. They take a time out and they make adjustments. And the purpose for making adjustments is so that you can reset, refocus, so that you can become more productive once you re-engage. And so that's an idea when we think about these different skills. We need to say we can assess where we are, and then we can make the necessary adjustments. Let's keep on rolling. And I would say one of the things I thought about yesterday is I knew Renita was a safe person where I could open up to her. So although my belief and expectation is that she's a good person at heart, I believe she wants the best for me. So although she was telling me, hey, why don't you go ahead and go to bed? I know she wasn't trying to shut me down and just get rid of me. So my belief and my expectation is she wants the best for me. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to sleep. So that's just something to keep in mind, is sometimes those communication styles, those filters can actually work best for you, to your advantage.
Yeah. So here's what we're trying to get to, and that's what we're going to spend the next 15 minutes talking about, is that clearly through these filters, the goal is two things. Number one, that we are actively listening, and that is clearly what letting our partner know, let your partner know you understand them by restating the message. That's how active listening works. So it's what we often call mirroring, where it's not like you're like a parrot and you're just saying exactly word for word what they said, but as you receive the message, you're able to demonstrate that you understand by mirroring what they said. And that's really important. In the last statement that was made, is that sometimes I'm not articulating my expectations in a way that you've understood. So that then lends itself to the assertive speaking that is also necessary. And that's my ability to express how I feel and ask for what I need in our relationship, in this particular situation that we're trying to resolve. And so we've got an acrostic that we have put into place that we use and that we've used for years in order to develop our active listening skills and our assertive speaking. And so that's what we're gonna share.
So when we talk about active listening, we talk about heard. That's the acrostic we use to talk about I heard what you mean. So what the idea here is, I want to listen for understanding. And so here are some behaviors that when I talk about active listening, here are some behaviors that I want to engage in, that I want to practice in order to ensure that I'm engaging in active listening. The first thing is halt. Stop what you're doing and give your undivided attention to your partner. And again, I know a lot of times we can be very good at multitasking, but what we're establishing to do is to let the person know that they are important. What you have to say is important. I know one of the things that would happen is when I would come home years ago when the boys were young, Renita would be cooking and she'd have one of the boys on her hip and she'd be doing something in the kitchen and taking care of it. So she's doing a lot of different things and I'm trying to talk with her and realizing that she's busy. I didn't want to feel like I'm interrupting, I'm imposing on her. But what she would do is to get my attention, to make sure she understood that what I had to say was important to her, she would stop what she was doing and she would actually give me her undivided attention. And so that I understood that what I had to say was a priority for her.
And it was like real simple. I would just turn the TV off, put one of the kids down in the high chair or whatever it was, turn the stove down, because it was all about giving the attention. Remember, one of the things that we talked about early on is communication. The full message does not just come through your words. And so if I'm not paying attention to your body language and if I'm not tuned into your tone, then I'm missing about 93% of the message. So that's why the halt and give your undivided attention is important.
The next one is to maintain eye contact during your conversation. Again, letting them know, hey, I'm not looking at my phone, I'm not looking at the television, I'm not looking at my magazine or whatever it is that I'm doing. I'm giving my undivided attention through my eye contact. Being aware of body language. I'm seeing body language as we're communicating. I notice as we're talking, I notice Renita's grimacing, she's shrugging her shoulders. I see she's listening, she's giving her undivided attention, but I see she's squinting. And so I know what that means is there's something going on in her back. And so I know she's got some tightness in her back. And so I may just choose to give her a back rub or whatever the case may be. But I'm tuning in as we're talking. I'm tuning into what her body language is saying. Resist the urge to interrupt. Again, a lot of times we do one of two things when we're listening to. Sometimes we think we understand where they're going, and so we try to answer the question for them, or we try to finish someone's sentence. So the idea is when I'm practicing active listening, I want to make sure that I resist the need to interrupt. And if I need to, I will just what I typically do is I will just write down a one-word note or something to remind myself of what point I may want to make. But again, I want Renita to know that this is your time to talk. I want to make sure that I'm listening. And then the D finally is do offer feedback by restating what you heard your partner say. So again, that they know that you really understood. It doesn't necessarily mean I agree with everything you said. All I'm saying is that I understand what you just communicated.
And the key to active listening, or the goal to active listening, is to get to that place of understanding, because that now is the ground floor, especially in situations where there's conflict. That's the ground floor to being able to rise to the solution. If I don't understand your perspective and I'm just trying to get my point across, then it's just going to be tit for tat. It's going to be a tennis match. We're just going to go back and forth, versus when I'm really taking down to listen and understand, I can see your perspective, and now you've heard me, I've heard you, and that helps us to ascend to a place where we can start to resolve some things.
So that's active listening. I heard what you mean.
Okay. The next one, or assertive speaking, is about I said what I intended, but I didn't do that in a way that was hurtful. And so again, the acrostic is SAID. And so we start by saying what we feel versus actions, results, or facts. It's especially when you are trying to resolve a conflict or we're in a conflict type of situation. Many times, reminding you or rehearsing what has happened seems like the best approach. I'm just going to remind you, last week you did this, and then now you're doing it again. In most cases, if I'm wrong, I probably already know it. And so the rehearsing just puts me on the defense. What you're trying to do, which is much more effective, is take ownership and say what it is that you're feeling based upon the action. So the fact that you come home late often, when you said that at least 3 times a week you want the family to eat dinner together, the fact that work seems to be a priority makes me feel like the family's not important. I feel like the family is just not important because you're late for dinner again for the 3rd time this week. And yes, the issue is that you're late, but more importantly, I feel like the family is not important is the message that I want to get across. I'm avoiding using should and ought as much as possible. You should have known when you were late for the 3rd time that I was going to be upset. You ought to know better. We've talked about this 5 times. Those are, again, words that will put yourself on the defense very quickly. Mm-hmm. So again, I want to avoid should and ought because they are words of defense. I is for using I statements. Again, when I use statements, I'm taking ownership. When I use I statements, I'm taking ownership versus accusing you. You make me so angry when you don't come through like you said, versus I'm really not happy about how things are working out. And it just really, again, makes me feel like this is not a priority for you right now. And there's a difference in me pointing the finger at you versus letting you know that this is where I stand. This is how I feel. This is the position that has put me in versus it's your fault that I'm mad. So I'm upset. I'm angry because the situation is not improving. And then last is do speak accurately. Don't exaggerate. There's a tendency sometimes, especially when I'm agitated, to, you know what, you never follow through. You're always late. Last week, I was on time once. And rather than exaggerate, it's being accurate. It's accurately saying whatever the problem is in this particular instance, not using the rehearsing from last week and the week before and 2 months ago. Because again, assertive speaking is about being able to get that message across, but not take the dig, not make you feel like the jab with everything that I'm saying. And even for those of us that are very direct, that's how I am. It's being mindful that I can be direct, but I can also be selective about the words that I'm using. And I can give them in a tone that doesn't make the listener feel like that they're a punching bag. And so I select the words that are not going to be hurtful. I use a tone that is calm and it doesn't feel like I'm standing over you, hollering at you or accusing you or talking down to you. And I'm using the I statements that now cause me to take ownership for whatever it is that I'm feeling or whatever it is that I'm experiencing or whatever it is, as somebody said before, what my expectations are.
That is it for the Strength of Seduction podcast today, my friends. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like and subscribe on whatever platform you love listening to us on and leave a review on Apple or Spotify. Every review counts. And of course, if you want to learn more about our transformational coaching program for Black married couples who want to kill the idea of divorce, who want to grow together spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and who want to do it all with love, passion, and fun, of course, go to strengthofseduction.com/apply to learn more about Love and Legacy, our signature coaching program for Black married couples. Now, as I always say, love fiercely, communicate openly, and always find your way back to each other. This is Daniel. I'll catch you next time on the Strength of Seduction podcast. Peace.